the floors and walls were painted with blood. Her mother, 35-year-old Sheila Belush, lay dead on the floor in a pool of her own blood. Sheila's throat had been viciously cut and she'd been shot point blank in the face. And what's even worse is that her 2-year-old quadruplets were found wandering around the house, leaving tiny little footprints of her blood. When Stevie sees this, she begins crying uncontrollably and manages to call 911. In the background, you can actually hear the baby screaming and crying as well, even though they don't know what's going on. As investigators arrived to the gruesome scene, they were baffled. They saw something that they've never seen before. 4 toddlers covered in blood splatter and a 13-year-old girl standing beside her mother's dead body. Lead detectives Ron Alberton and Chris Lorio arrived to the scene immediately, and these were 2 very high-skilled detectives. Even though they've been doing this for a very long time and have seen pretty horrific stuff, this was by far the most baffling case they've ever seen. Who would want this mother of 6 dead, and how could someone commit such a savage act with 4 toddlers present? The answers would prove even more chilling than the crime itself. I'm glad to say that the toddlers had no injuries, but they were still walking around their mother's blood, and clearly they were confused of what was going on. The garage held the first clues as to what happened. These investigators found a towel with gunshot residue and a hole in it. It's obvious that the killer tried to use this as a silencer, but the material must have jammed the gun at some point. There was a bullet casing on top of the dryer, and just behind that, on the utility room wall, was a single bullet hole. Technicians dusted off the dryer, and thankfully they were able to find a solid fingerprint. The blood trail led to the kitchen where a bloody knife was found on the floor. It matched the same knives as the ones on the magnetic rack in the kitchen, so it definitely belonged to the Belushes. Piece by piece, the picture came together. It seems that since the gun jammed, the killer decided to resort to anything that was nearby, which in this case was the knife. Sheila's throat was cut with such force that the tip of the knife was bent, but that wasn't the final blow. It seems that Sheila was alive for many minutes after that. Crime scene evidence showed that in Sheila's last moments alive, she tried to grab the phone to call 911.